on behind the scenes as he was pulled out of the game because Shedeur was not happy to be pulled out of the game, and Tyler Huntley came in. Guys, let's check out what Kevin Stefanski had to say. Roll the footage.
The entire Browns offense, but why didn't you keep him in for a 2-minute drill? Why did you decide to put Tyler in?
Yeah, obviously we didn't play great as an offense in the second half. That's never on one person. So we can be we can be better in a bunch of areas, and just felt like we wanted to give Snoop a last drive.
Did Shedeur himself?
Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. I'm told in a perfect world, Dylan Gabriel will get in around middle of the second quarter, and then Shedeur will go in middle of the third quarter and play the remainder of the game. As for what head coach Kevin Stefanski wants to see from these backups, he said it's pretty boring, but it's simple. How do these guys look running the offense? Can they spread the ball around? Can they get their teammates in the correct positions to run the correct plays? Shedeur Sanders did not play last week due to the oblique injury. He was back on the practice field this.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. I'll be real with you. I can't get that sideline moment out of my head. You've got Shedeur Sanders, a rookie quarterback fighting for respect, pulled out of the game against the Rams. And instead of just sitting down, instead of just nodding and saying, "Yes, coach," he walks right back up to Kevin Stefanski. Cameras rolling, the whole NFL world watching. And he says something that made the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, a man who's seen just about everything in this league, shake his head in disbelief. Do you understand how rare that is? Rookie quarterbacks don't do that. They don't challenge a coach, especially not one as respected and even-keeled as Stefanski. Most rookies, when they get benched or swapped out for a guy like Tyler Huntley, they sulk, they hang their heads, some throw tantrums, some vanish on the bench, waiting for the clock to run out. That's the script we've all seen play out 1,000 times before. But Shedeur Sanders ripped that script in half. He didn't storm off, didn't throw a helmet, didn't make it about disrespect. He gathered himself, marched right back, and made his case. That's not immaturity. That's confidence. That's fire. And that's exactly why this moment is different. You've got to think about what this means. This isn't just a preseason game. This isn't just meaningless snaps. Every single play in August is a fight for survival. Guys are battling for roster spots. Careers are on the line. Futures are being written. And in that pressure cooker, Shedeur looked his coach in the eye and said, "I'm not done. I can lead this drive." That is championship DNA, and you cannot fake it. Now here's where the tension lives, and why this moment matters more than people realize. Because on the surface, it looks like the start of controversy. Rookie QB challenges his coach. Media headlines ready to explode. But scratch deeper, and it's the opposite. This is exactly the kind of moment that tells you who a quarterback really is. Some players shrink when the spotlight hits. Some get quiet. Some break. NFL history is littered with guys who had the arm, had the talent, but the moment was too big for them. They froze when they were needed most. But Shedeur, he leaned into it. He embraced it. And you could see in Stefanski's reaction, that little shake of the head, that half smile. It wasn't anger. It was recognition. It was respect. That was a veteran coach seeing a rookie show him he's not scared of the fire. And I'll tell you something right now. That's why this isn't just another sideline exchange. This might be the first real glimpse of what Cleveland has been searching for, a quarterback who refuses to accept mediocrity. Because in that instant, Shedeur Sanders wasn't just playing for snaps, he was making a statement. And trust me, the story only gets bigger from here. So let's be real about this quarterback room in Cleveland, because this is where the story really heats up. On paper, the hierarchy looks clean. Joe Flacco at the top, the veteran presence, the steady hand who's been through playoff battles and Super Bowls. Behind him, Pickett, a young guy who was supposed to be the bridge, the safety net, the one who could step in and keep the offense afloat. Then you've got Dylan Gabriel, the developmental project with flashes of talent, but still clearly finding his rhythm at the pro level. And finally, sitting there at the bottom of the chart, you've got Shedeur Sanders, the rookie, the newcomer, the name that barely cracks the conversation on ESPN panels. At least, not yet. And that's what makes this so fascinating. Because while the media is quick to dismiss him, inside the building it's a whole different story. You can hear it in Stefanski's words. He didn't say Sanders was out of line. He didn't say rookies need to learn. He called him a competitive kid. That's coach speak for. This guy's got something we can work with. And believe me, when a coach like Stefanski drops that line, it means something. He's telling the organization, the fans, and even the locker room, this kid isn't just here to hold a clipboard. He's here to fight. Now look at the context. Joe Flacco might be the present, but let's not kid ourselves. He's 40 years old. His arm can still get it done in spots, but he's not the long-term solution. Pickett, he's been inconsistent since day one. Some flashes, some toughness, but also mistakes, injuries, and moments where you just don't see that it factor. Dylan Gabriel, promising sure, but raw, still learning the speed of the NFL. That leaves a door cracked open, and Shedeur Sanders is standing right there, pounding on it. The crazy part is, Sanders is both overlooked and over-scrutinized at the exact same time. Turn on the TV, and most analysts won't even bother mentioning him in the Browns QB conversation. But the moment he steps on the field, every little detail gets magnified. A missed read? They call it proof he's not ready. A 3 and out? Suddenly he's overhyped. Meanwhile, the same mistakes from other rookies get brushed off as growing pains. That's the weight of his name, the pressure of being Deion Sanders' son, the spotlight that follows him everywhere. He's expected to be flawless, while also expected to fail. Think about how insane that is. But here's why I'm paying attention. Quarterback battles aren't just about stats on a sheet. They're about presence. They're about who the guys in the huddle believe in, who makes the locker room lean forward, who the coaches trust when the game's on the line. And after that sideline moment with Stefanski, after the way his teammates didn't flinch or turn away, you can feel it. Sanders has already earned respect in ways numbers can't capture. That's why this chapter of his story is so compelling. He's not supposed to be the guy right now. He's supposed to wait his turn, sit quietly and just learn. But everything about the way he carries himself screams that he's not here to wait. He's here to take it. And in a quarterback room that feels like it's built on borrowed time, that might be exactly what Cleveland needs. And the more you look at it, the more you realize this rookie might be sitting fourth on the depth chart today, but he's also the one with the most to gain and the least margin for error, which is exactly the kind of underdog story NFL fans like us live for. Because the real question isn't if Sanders will rise in this room. The question is when. Let's talk about the other side of this story. Because for every ounce of respect Shedeur Sanders has earned inside the locker room, there's an equal wave of doubt coming from outside of it. The critics, the talking heads, the same recycled media narratives that never seem to go away. They've circled him from the moment he declared, waiting for their chance to pounce. And trust me, they've taken their shots. First it was the injury. That oblique setback. They said he wouldn't be the same, that he'd lose mobility, that his timing would crumble under NFL speed. Then it was the mechanics. Too long on the release, too quick to drift in the pocket, too dependent on instinct. Then came the personality takes. Too flashy, too confident, living off the Sanders name. And here's the one that always burns me. Why is it that every time a young black quarterback shows swagger, the media calls it arrogance? But when another guy, another face plays with fire, they call it leadership. It's a double standard as old as the league itself, and Shedeur's been staring it down since day one. And don't forget the comparisons. Always the comparisons. Every throw he makes gets measured against Caleb Williams. Every mistake gets stacked up against Drake May. Every snap is judged like it's a referendum on whether or not he belongs. Nobody lets him just be a rookie learning the game. It's always a debate, always a headline, always a reason to say he's not ready. They said he wasn't ready in high school. They said he wasn't ready at Jackson State. They said he couldn't handle the jump to Colorado, that the Power 5 spotlight would eat him alive. They said Cleveland would be too much, too hostile, too unforgiving for a rookie quarterback with a famous last name. They said it all, over and over again. And yet here he is, standing on the sideline, looking his head coach in the eye, refusing to back down. That's not the story of a kid who folds under pressure. That's the story of a competitor who's been proving people wrong his entire life. But here's the reality of the NFL. The pressure never stops. Every week is a test. Every drive is a judgment. Every mistake is amplified, until it feels like the world is crashing down. And for Sanders, it's multiplied tenfold, because of who he is and the last name on the back of that jersey. He doesn't get the luxury of anonymity. He doesn't get the grace period most rookies are handed. For him, every throw is a headline. Every decision is a debate. That's the weight he carries into every single snap. And that's why this moment matters so much. Because if he can take all of that noise, all of that criticism, all of that doubt, and still march up to his coach with fire in his eyes, then maybe, just maybe, he's already proving he can carry more than just an offense. He can carry the weight of an entire franchise. And if you think the doubters are going to quiet down anytime soon, you're wrong. They're waiting for the first bad pick, the first ugly loss, the first stumble. But that's exactly why this is the pressure cooker moment, the crucible where legends are either broken or born. There's something about Shedeur Sanders that you can't teach, and I'm not just talking about arm strength or accuracy or mechanics. Those things can be developed, refined, sharpened over time. But that inner fire, that competitive edge that makes a quarterback believe he can win with anybody, on any field, against any opponent, that's either in you or it's not. And Shedeur has it. Think about his entire upbringing. Pressure wasn't something he stumbled into. It's something he was born into. Being the son of Deion Sanders means the spotlight has been on him since he was a teenager. Every game in high school, people weren't just watching for highlights. They were watching to see if he lived up to the name. At Jackson State, every throw came with critics saying the competition wasn't real, that his numbers didn't count. Then he goes to Colorado, steps into the national spotlight, and what happens? Week 1, he drops 510 yards and 4 touchdowns on TCU. That's not just talent. That's a player who doesn't blink when the lights are brightest. And you saw it again on that sideline against the Rams. That wasn't immaturity. That wasn't arrogance. That was leadership in its rawest form. He wasn't making it about himself. He was saying, I believe I can lead this offense. I believe I can put these guys in position to win. And here's the part people miss. He was working with 3rd and 4th stringers out there. Guys fighting for their jobs. Receivers who might not be on a roster next week. Offensive linemen who couldn't hold a pocket. And still, Sanders felt like he could elevate them.
That is the trait that separates franchise quarterbacks from placeholders. Look back at Stefanski's response. He's a competitive kid. That wasn't dismissal. That wasn't a brush-off. That was acknowledgement. Coaches crave that kind of fire. Because you can't scheme it. You can't drill it in practice. You either have a quarterback who's willing to take ownership of the moment, or you don't. And the Browns for once might have found a kid who does. And if you don't believe me, listen to the whispers coming out of practice. Reporters talk about how teammates gravitate toward him, how even in scrimmages he commands the huddle like a veteran, how his confidence sets a tone. These aren't things you measure with a stopwatch or a stat sheet. These are the intangibles that make a quarterback the guy. And Shedeur, even as a rookie, is already showing them. That's why I don't see him as a long shot. Not at all. I see him as the spark Cleveland has been searching for, maybe without even realizing it. Because when you've been burned by false starts, broken promises, and quarterbacks who couldn't carry the weight, what you're really waiting for is someone who demands more, someone who won't settle, someone who believes he belongs. And the truth is, Sanders does. He's been proving it his whole life. The only question left is how soon the Browns will let him show it. There are moments in football that don't look like much at first. A sideline exchange, a headshake from a coach, a rookie refusing to back down. But later, when you look back, those moments feel like the spark that lit a fire. And I truly believe what we saw between Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski against the Rams could be one of those moments. Because here's the truth. The Browns' quarterback room isn't built for the future. Joe Flacco is a legend, no doubt, but he's temporary, a stopgap, a veteran who can steady the ship, not a captain for the next decade. Kenny Pickett? He's got guts, but inconsistency and injuries have defined his career so far. Dylan Gabriel? Talented but raw, still learning what it takes to survive at this level. That's not a long-term plan. That's a patchwork. And then you have Shedeur Sanders. Fearless, competitive, relentless. The only one in that room who looked his coach in the eye and said, "I'm not done." That's not arrogance. That's belief. That's leadership. That's the exact mindset every great franchise quarterback has carried before their careers ever truly began. Think about it. We've seen this story play out before. Jalen Hurts was told he couldn't throw well enough to succeed in the NFL. Josh Allen was ripped apart for his accuracy. Lamar Jackson was told to change positions altogether. And every single one of them proved the critics wrong, not by waiting their turn, but by forcing the league to recognize who they really were. Sanders has that same DNA. He's not waiting. He's not hiding. He's not backing down. And that's exactly why Cleveland should believe. Now, I'm not saying he's ready to walk into week 1 and dominate. Nobody's saying that. But what I am saying is this. Years from now, when we look back on the rise of Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, this sideline moment might be where the story really began. Not the stats, not the depth chart, not the preseason box score, but the fire. The refusal to accept mediocrity, the competitive edge that told a city starved for greatness, "I will not be just another name. I will not be another false start." And if you're a Browns fan, you know exactly why this matters. You've lived through heartbreak, through false hopes, through quarterback after quarterback who couldn't carry the weight. But this time feels different, because this time, the rookie already carries himself like a leader. This time, the coach isn't shutting it down, he's encouraging it. This time, the locker room is quietly respecting it. So I'll leave you with this question. Was Shedeur Sanders out of line for challenging his coach? Or was that the exact moment that proved he's built different? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I can promise you this. We're going to be talking about this kid all season long. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back and say that was the night Cleveland's future quarterback was truly born.